What's up, everybody? It's your boy Showtimedr. So, I wanted to kind of clarify, because there's been a lot of misinformation coming out about this game as far as official tier lists and what you definitely want to roll for, and etc, etc. And that's all fine. I understand the YouTube game. People just want to get their videos out so they can get the views. More power to them. But here, at Showtimedr's channel, I give you the real stuff. So, what I am going to do, I am going to explain to you guys why you need to be very wary about tier lists in this game, and what you should really be looking for instead, because if you go entirely based off a tier list right now, come 1 or 2 months, you're probably going to be kind of ragey and regretting it. So, but anyways, let's get into it here. So, important things about this game and why, in fact, you know what, let's just take an example. So I'll go to the SSR heroes, because most people will be like, oh, SSR, shiny, oh my god, it's amazing, wow, 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 wow. And yeah, I'm sure, for the most part, how SSRs work in this game, they got better stats overall, just base stats. So the multipliers all get better the higher and higher you get on your gear scores, and that's great. And then one thing that SSR heroes do have, I'll shine here, they got a couple things, but one of them, to pay attention, make sure you're paying attention to this, guys, the faction type. Now, you notice here that this guy has 3 faction types, right? So let's go over to, I'll show you guys an SR hero, and it's the same thing with R heroes. So we'll click our random SR hero. And notice how she has 2 faction types right here. So faction is a very important thing in this game, and probably the major thing that most new players are going to miss. You can get, well, I'll go into faction right after I do the SSR hero thing. But so, okay, we'll go back to him. So he has 3 factions, but let's say you get this guy, and then, so we'll go over here. And then you get Barnhart, right? Barnhart's got that skull thing, which I think means he's part of the dark faction, and then he's got the night one. So we'll go to factions real quick. So just keep in mind, guys, the 2 names. Muller and Barnhart. So you come over here to faction. They're probably part of the dark cycle, yeah. And then they're probably both part of the Emperor's Honor, Admiral Barnhart. So in this case, that works out because they are both part of 2 of the same factions. And not sure about the 3rd faction, they're probably separate on the 3rd faction. When I get the factions, that'll make more sense, but I'll do that in a second. Now let's look at Sherry. Let's say you got Sherry on top of them. Well, Sherry most likely is going to be part of the Princess faction, and whatever these 2 factions are, I'm sure it's like Light or whatever. Well, so let's say you got Sherry and Muller. Oh yay, I got 2 SSRs, oh my god, it's amazing, it's amazing. Well, not so fast, because since they have completely different factions, unless you are choosing 2 of the factions from, like, one from him and one from him as your main primary focuses early game, it's not gonna matter, because you're not gonna have the resources to build both up. And I'll get into factions now to show you guys why that is. So factions in this game, there are 8 total. That's what I've been told. On the wiki it shows 7 for some reason, but I believe there's another one full of, in fact, let me check here and see if these are assassins or not. Maiden of Light, kind of doubt she's an assassin. Okay, she's one of the healers. Alright, well, I guess that doesn't work then. Well, anyways, so the thing with factions is, as you farm in this game, there are going to be buffs that you can do that you're specifically ramping up for your factions, and it's going to be like magic defense plus 30% for faction A, or attack plus 20% when they are retaliating for faction B. And early in this game, you're going to have to focus, if you want to be optimal, 2 factions, and that's it. Because if you spread yourself much thinner than that, the faction, the amount of power you're going to have is just going to be too spread out, and you're not going to be ramping up at the level that you're going to need to be to keep farming things and getting higher and higher, etc. So right now I'll go over what some of the factions do. And I don't have the info for all of them because surprisingly this game is incredibly hard to get information on. But I'll tell you guys what I know. So the Princess faction right here, these guys are the kings of nuking and distance. So they all have like really long distance. Or excuse me, they don't all have that, but they have the ones that do and their troops. Because you can customize the troops for most of these guys. They're going to be dealing bonus damage with their nuking and stuff. But their issue is they have very weak tanks. Is what I get. Or they're weak 2 tanks. It's one or the other. So, and then we got Glory here. Glory, they have very good tanking and retaliation. So, essentially, that's their strength. I'm not sure about their weakness, but I know that Lidan, his factions are actually very favored right now in the Chinese beta, or not beta, the meta. Because their servers, I believe, have been out about 5 months or so by now. So, anyways, and then we'll get to Dark. So Dark is kind of a curious thing. Dark has... they're pretty weak early game, but around mid game, which is supposedly around 2 months from what I've been told, they are the kings of PvP because they have a ton of debuffs, but they suck in PvE, like super bad in PvE. So if you're going to choose Dark as one of your teams, you're doing it purely for PvP, is what I hear. So be aware of that when you're going to be doing your PvE farming. Now, as far as strategists go, strategists are the cavalry rush people. And they also include Letitia, which is one of the people I'll be rerolling for, but I'll get more into that later. This is cavalry rush, so most of these guys are riders. And riders in this game, they're weak to lancers, but they're strong against swordsmen. So if you want like fast heroes, this is the group for you. Between them and like the dragon riders, which some of them can get upgrades to be dragon riders later on. But more on that later. And then, let's see what else we got. Now, I haven't identified who this is, and this might be the faction that isn't here for, excuse me, here for some reason. But there is a faction called Meteor Assassin. Or Meteor, rather. Not sure exactly what. Meteor is the assassin group in this game, and they are kings of hit and run. So you hit, and then you got so much movement you can do after your turn, at least for certain characters, and they run away, or they run back behind the tanks, or whatever's going on there. Now, a word of warning for Assassin. Assassin is super weak early game, guys, and mid game they get a little better, but they're still pretty weak. And the reason for that is they are an in-game class that has, they're like one-shot kill classes. But obviously early in the game, you know, we're not going to have the levels, we're not going to have the gear, we're not going to have the upgrades to be able to pull off one shot super early. So it is not recommended, because most of you can start your faction class. There's a bunch of questions you have to answer in the tutorial. Some of you might get Assassin. Just know that it is fairly hard to do Assassin early game. So end game, they're the masters apparently, but early game it's going to be pretty hard. So for those of you guys wondering about that. Now, that's pretty much all I know about the different factions. They're all going to have different buffs that they're going to get. People cross between 2 and 3 factions. The SSRs cross between 3 factions. So depending on which ones you're focusing on and which one you're buffing, that'll affect which characters will be strong versus strong in your party versus weaker, etc. So just something to know about that, and make sure that as you're looking at the tier list, okay, does this faction line up with this faction? Which factions am I going to want to do? Like, personally, I'm probably going to go Strategic Masters, because I want Letitia. And then I'll have to pick whichever one of the SSR healers, because there's only 2 in the game. I got to pick one of their factions, which I'll go over all that later for myself. Now, let's get to... Oh, by the way, I think I forgot. I was going to do a shout-out. Well, I guess I'll have to do it some other time. So like I said, a lot of you guys will be like, well, why do you want Letitia? Letitia's in our unit. Oh, if only you knew. I had Letitia on the Chinese server, so... Thing about Letitia. Here's her specialty. So it says, when entering battle, if an ally is within 2 blocks, attack and defense increases by 5%. After attacking, mobility of one ally within 2 blocks will increase by 1. Now as you start this up, that buff starts to go up, but the main thing to notice, mobility of 2 allies within 2 blocks increased by 1. 3 allies, etc., etc. So that starts to get pretty good there. But the main thing that makes her really good is, and this is unique to her as far as I've seen, she's one of the top tier PvP heroes in the game. She has a skill, I don't know, it might be 2 different skills, but essentially when you go into combat, it's like the grid base, and you go and you decide, okay, you're going to attack. If she attacks first, she takes a chunk of percentage of their life away instantly before there's any type of retaliation. And then she attacks, and they go through the attack phases and the counter-attack phases, etc. And then after the battle, she's still alive, she takes another hit point percentage chunk away from them. So in PvP, she is ridiculous if you get her hitting hard. And this is actually one of the heroes, like I said, I'm going to be rerolling for just because I've used her and I've had her and she's super good. Super good in PvE too. That skill's really good in PvP or PvE. Now, when she gets attacked, she still does the initial hit, but she doesn't do the follow-up hit. I believe. I think that's what I remember. So, just be aware, but this is one of the heroes, if you're going to reroll, I would say reroll for her if you're interested in a cavalry person that's just ridiculous. Now, as far as... there are a couple other heroes, and these are our heroes that you should keep an eye on. This is going to be a story hero, so everyone's going to get her. She's a caster, she has pretty good range. So if you look at her skill here, essentially as long as her troops are at 100%, in increases by 5%. 15% in is added to her magic defense. So what that means is you can attack from range. So say that there's like a horse guy or a soldier or something, someone that's not either an archer or another caster or anyone with range. There's ballistas and stuff in this game. She can go ahead and chunk them. Her troops won't get hit, so she's hitting harder. And then her magic defense is there if you're attacking another caster. So it's going to ramp up pretty good. And then as you upgrade it here, you know, it's 9%, 25, etc. until it gets to its top of 40% and 15. So this unit, when you get her in the story, be sure that you're focusing her, because she's a pretty damn good unit. Now, and then the last R unit is this guy, Lester. So Lester, by the way, guys, before I go any further, there's one thing I did want to say. I've heard it from the devs' mouth themselves. There is no one group in this game, no matter what you got, SSRs, the top tier of every member of a faction. There is no group in this game that can do everything. As far as the time dungeons, the regular world map, PvP, there's like Iron Man dungeons, I think there's guild battle, etc. There's no one unit that can clear everything. There's raids. Or no one group that's able to clear everything, so you are going to have to bring up multiple people. Now, as an example of this is Lester. And so you look at his stuff, and you look at him, and you're like, well, what's so impressive about him? Naval expert. Well, you know, extra troop attack. It's going to ramp up all the way when you get him high to 30%, which is pretty sexy, but it's on water. Water in this game is actually fairly tough because there are a lot of, even in PvE, water monster units that they have 30% more attack and defense, etc. whenever they're on water. So this is a guy that's going to help you in that. And this is a hero, if he happens to be in your initial 10 roll, hey, consider it a bonus because he's actually super good. And you really need him for some of the maps in this game because they're damn near impossible without him. So you see most of his, these are troops, by the way. As you unlock different classes, you can unlock the different troop types, and then you can go back and decide, okay, I'm going to actually play this other class, and then you can unlock those troop types until you get all their bonuses, and you get all their skills, and you can swap in their skills too. So, but just to give a base overview of what this unit does, you see how most of this stuff here, it's like reduce water damage. Attack and defense increased by 10% in the water, etc. When soldier's life is greater than 10%, you know, damage is reduced. When attacking a unit with 100% health, attack increases, and a lot of it has to do with water stuff. So just be aware that this unit is going to be one of the top tier as far as just fighting on water battles. Now, the other 2 units I'm going to recommend And it's going to be a short recommendation list, guys, because there's good units, but the good units are subjective depending on what kind of faction stuff you got and what you're focusing on. So a unit that might be really good for this other guy because they're focusing on these two factions is going to be hot garbage for you because you're not. And then I'll get into the PvP meta after I'm done with the hero explanations here. So let's go to Tiaris. Tiaris is one of the SSR healers. And her skill is essentially, at the end of the battle, grant 100% cure. It starts at 50% when you have it 3-star. But eventually gets to 100% to store HP after battle to allies within 2 squares. Heal value 3 times TR's intellect. So what I'm imagining is she's probably really good for those Iron Man style dungeons where it keeps track of the unit's health. Or if there's multiple battles on one screen. Or one map, etc. She's probably going to be really good for that. And then she's got all these different class skills. You know, most of it's self-explanatory. Then once again, I'm going to leave a link to the wiki so you guys can actually come and see what all these skills do. But I didn't want to go too deep into why. I'll do that on separate character videos eventually. And then all the troop types she can unlock, etc. It's all here on the wiki. Now, as far as the other SSR hero, Liana, she's a little bit more about the current battle. So you see here at the end of her turn, removes 1 debuff from allies within a square around her and heals them by 1.5 her intellect. And as it goes up, the intellect goes up to 3 and removes 2 debuffs from allies within 2 squares. So it starts to get fairly fat there. And then, you know, she has the basic 5 times intelligence for heal, etc. And there's all types of various buffs and debuffs, etc. that you can put up, so. But she's going to be really good. So I don't know. Honestly, I'll probably take whichever one as long as I can get that and Letitia in the same role. Oh, so there's actually more stuff I should go over with you guys. Okay, well, I'll do the PvP meta first, and then I will also get into early game, what you want to focus on. So PvP meta in this game doesn't last. Doesn't last. And what I mean by that is there'll be something that's like super powerful, you know, some type of combo, etc., some type of group skills with certain things, and it'll dominate PvP for about a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then it'll be hard countered because there's a lot of hard countering in this game. And that it's not uncommon for something to be super OP 1 week and be complete garbage tier next week because everyone's figured out how to counter it, so everyone starts running the counter meta. And then a new meta appears, and whatever that meta is, it starts to form, and then there's a counter to that, etc. So PvP, from the way it's been explained to me, will always be hard counters. So you are going to want to build up as many groups that can counter certain things as possible, is the easy way to say it. But you never have to worry about, you know, oh, there's this one character and they're just so strong I can't beat them unless I have this 1 or 2 SSR unit. It's not going to happen in this game from the way it's been explained to me. So, put that out there for you guys. And then also, my recommendation, this is probably what I'll end the video on. My recommendation for you guys is do not spend too long re-rolling. Especially if you're going to get into the point of multiple days, and in some cases I've seen a couple weeks, because EXP is king in this game. Experience is king in this game. What I mean by that, you need to level. There's only a certain amount of leveling you can do per day, because you get some stamina. I forget what they're called in this game, but like stamina monkeys or whatever the hell it is. So you get some pots, basically, that refills your stamina a little bit. And then you have your initial stamina. And then early game, you know, you're leveling so much, you're getting a lot of stamina. But eventually you're going to get to the point where it is recommended, as I've seen, you need to reset twice a day. And to reset 2 times a day will cost you 100... I forget what the currency is called in this game, but you know, it's basically the crystal currency. 40 the first time and 60 the second time, because you want to get as much farming as possible, because EXP is capped. So even whales can't buy more EXP in this game. What I mean by that is stamina, rather. So you can only get so much experience per day, because does that start to make sense to you? So the people that get their ducks in a row and start the game early, even if you get the perfect team after 2 or 3 or 4 days of re-rolling, they're going to be infinitely farther than you just because of that time, because every day is another day to put another, another block between you and people that are starting. So that is going to be very important, guys. So I recommend try to finalize, if you can, whatever you're going to do for your tier list. Try to finalize it within the first couple hours, or leave yourself enough time to go and EXP as much as you can the first few days, because that is going to be much more important than getting perfect said hero combo, perfect said faction combo. It's still important, but not as important as actually getting in there and playing the game this time. So that's my recommendation for that. I'll be putting out more videos today. I did want to give a shout out to Tinywell. Tinywell, he writes guides. In fact, let me go to them here. He writes guides for this game on the wiki, and he actually reached out to me when I was just talking on the global Discord, and we talked a little bit, and he was very kind to explain things to me, so I wanted to shout him out here. So most of his guides, if you come over here, he has them right here, and he has some extra guides. I'll leave a link to the wiki once again. Wiki's best source of information right now on this game on the English side. So he has a lot of guides, and it'll teach you like the easy stuff. And I'm actually going to read over a couple of them, like the resource management guide and the time trials later today. So yeah, just want to give him a shout out. Thank you so much for all your time, dude. I really appreciate it. And that's pretty much it for this video, guys. So I'm going to be putting out more content for this. Be looking for it. And once again, be very careful with tier lists, because it's all very subjective based on what one person experienced at one time. Just make sure you read the skills, because like I said, all the skills for the characters, they're all sitting right here at the bottom. You want to come read them. Come check them out. Start looking at the factions, see what, okay, maybe this guy would gel with this lady, or etc., vice versa. And just start planning, guys, so. And anyways, that's going to be it for me. So, if you've never seen me before, yo, I'm Showtime Doctor, Showtime DR. You found my YouTube. Hit like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Also, we got a little bit, I think the community's going to shift over here from Epic 7 a little bit. But we got a tab in my Discord if you guys want to come chat in the Discord. And we could like keep track of each other's woes, ask questions, etc. Because I'll just tell you guys straight up, there is no one YouTuber that knows everything about this game. The only one that has a chance is someone that's been playing the Korean version for X number of 5 months or whatever. And I'm sure there are a couple, but the greater majority of the English YouTubers are not going to know what the hell's going on in this game for a while until we sit down and play it for a long time. So, anyways, I've ranted long enough, so I'll catch you guys later on. Peace out.